A long time ago, in a galaxy far, far away, a young girl and her friends are being attacked by plastic skeletons and finger-wagged by a terrifying robot monster man. And she's like, "You're not my dad."
Turns out this girl is a princess and she's running from the government after torrenting hundreds of Cy Snoodle albums and the plans to the Death Star.
You wouldn't steal a baby. You wouldn't shoot a policeman and then steal his helmet.
She decides to hide her crime by shooting her shiny friends off into space, like any typical millennial.
These shiny friends of hers happen to be the galaxy's most argumentative couple and get lost in their desert cruise and captured by the indigenous locals.
A few hundred miles later, a sand-soaked teen with a bowl cut is moping around his moisture farm, playing with his toys and complaining about being sent to the bodega.
Vader shows his board-beating bros how he almost killed his wife and then swaps torture strategies with a fellow old war criminal. Still terrifying, even without his Fly Imperial March theme song.
Luke loses one of his uncle's new toys in Old Man Kenobi's backyard and has to go fetch them. Old Ben hello-there's himself into the situation again by doing his impression of the Mothman. He then takes the young boy back to his hut to tell him old war stories and lie to him about his upbringing.
After the Empire serves his aunt and uncle well done, Luke storms out and decides he's going to Alderaan.
But first, old Ben takes him to Mos Eisley for a few drinks to take the edge off.
No, they have a mission, remember the whole "you're my only hope" thing.
Yes, sorry. So they go to the bar anyway, and they get a little too rowdy and go 0 to lightsaber real quick.
Luckily, they make friends with someone there with quick hands named Han Solo and his bipedal dog Chewie. Not to be confused with the website for dogs, also named Chewie.
They leave Tatooine without seeing Jabba the Hutt, and arrive at what's left of Princess Leia's planet. Old Ben flexes how much he knows about space by letting everyone know that the giant steel ball isn't a moon as they get sucked into it.
When they find out the princess is on board, they try to rescue her, but the damsel in distress ends up blasting the Empire herself and roasting her saviors.
A little short for a stormtrooper?
Huh? They take a quick dip in the pool and R2 saves the day for the umpteenth time, so his human friends avoid being smushed.
Obi-Wan busies himself by dueling his former best friend and perfectly timing his death for dramatic effect. Then completely ripping off that scene from The Phantom Menace where Qui-Gon dies.
No! The young heroes escape and take the Death Star plans to the Rebellion.
Whether you're grieving for billions or grieving for an old wizard, the Rebellion is in a constant recruitment mode, and a 19-year-old boy and a scruffy old nerf herder are welcome to shoot some blasters at the Empire's direction.
Han takes the money and runs, but Luke falls for it hook, line, and sinker.
The resulting space battle is something that solidified Star Wars as a household name.
And it is the result of the hurricane of chance that the most talented people in their field aligned to work on the same wild project, featuring a lack of faith in computers,
Dreamy Wedge,
and a Han Solo surprise party.
Which means everyone's getting blinged up, and Chewie is just thankful because he's seen worse.
3 years later.
The Empire be striking back with probes dropped all over town.
Luke almost gets killed by the abominable snowman, but a bearded fella shows up and reminds him that he's a wizard and should hang with other wizards in the swamp.
Man. Just in time for the Empire to show up and stomp the yard so hard that the rebels run away in embarrassment,
forcing a couple star-crossed lovers to get in the same cozy craft with a history for matchmaking.
Oh, please. I'm in the same situation.
Most of the rebels have escaped Vader's fist for now, so he's off to hibernate in his egg until rebel hunting season is back.
Luke makes it to Fraggle Rock Swamp, where he crashes a party of one and learns that little green men can also be Jedi Masters.
The rest of the squad is being led to safety by Han Solo, using foolproof hiding places like inside a worm or on the enemy's back.
Han discovers that old friends sometimes come with benefits, like fresh clothes and being delivered to the Empire. Luke, however, finds out that his master's last BFF just wants piggyback rides and to show off how a real man uses the Force.
Luke faces off against Vader, himself, just some smoke and mirrors, Yoda set up in a cave. Either way, his face explodes.
Back on Cloud City, Chewie's got a new connector set, and Leia's falling asleep to the sweet sounds of Han's screams.
Luke is getting Mr. Miyagi'd by opening his chakras in yoga class and training to take bronze in Olympic floor freestyle.
Luke then takes after his mother and gives up after the first sign of struggle.
Dude, whoa, too far.
Oh, sorry, man. So Yoda flexes his big force energy right in his face.
Shouldn't judge him by his size, should you?
Then Luke takes after his father by doing the opposite of his master's wishes while telling them it's perfectly fine.
You're going slowly on the left. Taking him now. No, Anakin, no!
Just before that, Han gets preheated and packaged away in a freezer, but ain't no city high enough that can keep him from being the most charming mug in the galaxy.
I love you.
I know.
Then Boba Fett, the Uber Eats driver, takes Jabba's future snack to his ship for delivery.
Luke does his best impression of a lab rat and follows the maze to the Big Daddy Cheese. Smoked.
Vader, always one for the theatrics, looms over him at the top of the stairs, fully claiming the high ground. Luke uses the zero amount of saber training he learned to combat the best duelist in the galaxy.
Yeah, why didn't Yoda show him any of his saber tricks? Oh, never mind, Luke probably didn't do parkour in his early teens. But hey, Luke holds his own until... Well, he did show a little bit of offense.
While he had all his limbs...
And thus commences the greatest movie twist in cinema history.
I am your father.
Luke chooses to say goodbye, cruel world, just like his mom,
Bro,
but falls into a tube to make his escape.
speaking of escapes, speaking of capes, Lando's guilt starts to nag at him, as well as Chewie's hands.
The furry paws convince him to help the other heroes escape, and places the galaxy's fastest catcher's mitt under Luke so he doesn't fall to a gassy end.
Luke gets a new robot hand that looks weirdly like a human hand, and the future looks bright as they look into the dark abyss of space.
Why didn't you tell me?
A few months to a year later.
It's Flashback Friday as 3PO and R2 are alone in the desert again.
Luke sends them like pigs to the slaughter for his grand plan. Speaking of pigs, Jabba's palace is guarded by Miss Piggy's ugly cousins.
Pigs in space!
Leia, definitely not Leia, shows up with Chewie in chains to offer him to Jabba. Once the deal goes south, she decides if she can't have Han, no one can.
After striking a deal, Leia sneaks off to unfreeze her lover with the second most frightening voice you could ever wake up to.
Your eyesight will return in time.
What's the first?
Gilbert Gottfried, of course.
Oh, yes, duh.
We gotta get out! I gotta start packing, Your Highness!
Speaking of scary, Luke shows up and starts killing people, like just choking them to death.
He meets up with Jabba's right-hand man, the only ugly-looking Twi'lek in the galaxy, and learns that he should really have practiced parkour, as the floor drops out from under him, and he's faced with the only thing in the palace uglier than Jabba himself.
He kills it with a door, Mandalorian style, and is rewarded with a death sentence and almost flushed down a garbage disposal in the desert.
Luke finally shows he does have flippy skills, and the rest of the squad is so impressed that they all start a mosh pit.
Jabba meets a grisly end before he's able to testify against any of the other crime lords in the area. Hashtag Jabba didn't hang himself.
Boba gets blindsided by a blind guy, and they all take off after destroying the evidence.
Luke splits off to meet with Yoda, and the Falcon totes the others to the Rebels' secret tree fort. Hey, no Imperials allowed.
Luke just makes super sure that Vader is his daddy as Yoda goes down for the long nap.
The Rebels need to divide and conquer, and for some reason, two of the best pilots in the galaxy get assigned to the ground team.
But Han is still needed for his second-to-none flying maneuvers.
I don't know. Fly casual.
A few old codes later, they're in the jungle, slapping shoulders and inspiring the imagination of every kid who will ever ride a bike and pretend they're weaving through the trees of Endor. Hopefully minus this.
After being captured by some woodland creatures, they teach Leia some ancient hair-growing techniques, and Luke drops the dad bomb in a solo sibling one-on-one.
The plan is to act like any good horror movie victims and split up.
Luke's goal is to face the monster alone, and the others will use cuteness to fight their haters, the acrylic skeletons.
Vader takes his new prize to the Emperor like a cat with a dead bird, and Palpatine revels in the opportunity to scare someone new with his weird face.
The rebels start their plan of throwing ships at the Empire, and Lando gets to show off why he should never have lost that game of sabacc for the Falcon.
Luke lets the hate flow through him as he takes out years of missed baseball games and countless bounced child support checks on his big bad daddy.
Meanwhile, the furries on the ground somehow overthrow the greatest army in the galaxy, and Han remembers when Leia and Luke kissed in the last movie.
The Emperor hasn't had this much fun since Dooku's beheading, and Luke repays his dad for his lost limb.
He denies the temptation of Satan by disarming himself, and instantly regrets not learning how to block lightning.
Lando Calrissian Leroy Jenkins himself right into the heart of the Death Star 2.0.
All right, thumbs up. Ready, guys? Let's do this. Leroy Jenkins!
Vader can't bear watching his son get deep fried, which causes his heart to grow 3 sizes that day. He throws Papa Palpatine down a giant space toilet, but just like his master, apparently doesn't know how to finish the job.
Luke finally looks into the eyes of his father as he expresses his love for his son.
Truly showing how love can overcome all odds and bring families together even in the worst of scenarios. You can always...
Whoa, they gotta wrap that shit up! Lando just sent a missile into the main reactor core! Oh!
While others get to party hardy, bang on helmets, and light up fireworks, Luke gets to light up his father's corpse.
Hey Luke, not all your family members need to be charred remains when they die.
Either way, Force Ghost reunion and Yub Nub for life.
Yub Nub!
To be continued in 30 years.
We're doomed.